Mother Fletcher's Gift by Walter Dean Myers. Illustrated by William Lowe. It was rumored that Mother Fletcher was well over 90 years old. She had become a legend on 145th Street. If anybody wanted to know what the neighborhood looked like in the 20s, where Jack Johnson had lived, perhaps, or where James Baldwin's father had preached, Mother Fletcher could tell you. Patrolman William Michael O'Brien had heard about her shortly after his assignment to the precinct, but it wasn't until nearly 3 months later that he actually met the old woman. He was on foot patrol and had stopped to pass a few words with one of the local shopkeepers when a young black girl came running up to him and told him that Mother Fletcher was sick and needed an ambulance. O'Brien knew that in this neighborhood it was nearly impossible to get a doctor who would make house calls. But he had also been told that sometimes the people used ambulances just to go downtown. He followed the girl into one of the buildings and into a first-floor apartment. The place was small, but spotless. The floor was covered with a linoleum rug that was worn through in several spots. The porcelain in the kitchen sink was discolored, but the brass fixtures were shining brightly. "She's in here," the girl said, and went into the adjoining room. Mother Fletcher sat upright in the white-sheeted bed, her pale green housecoat pinned at the neck. O'Brien had never seen as black a person in his entire life. Her skin was a dull ebony that seemed almost purple in the light of the lamp by her bed. Her gray hair, still streaked with wisps of black and thinner on the sides than on the top, framed her face and, catching the light, made her look like a black version of a painted medieval saint. She was a small person, in the delicate way that a child is small, but with the quiet grace of her years. But what stood out most on the old woman were her eyes. They were, if it was possible, even darker than her skin. Black, shiny eyes that darted brightly about, checking the room for anything that might have been out of place. "Didn't my great-great-grandchild there tell you I was sick?" Mother Fletcher shot a glance in the direction of the girl. "I gave her a dime to tell you." "I mean," O'Brien said, "what exactly is the matter?" "How do I know? I'm not a doctor." Mother Fletcher pulled the housecoat tighter around her thin shoulders. "What's your name, please?" "Mother Fletcher." "What's your first name?" "I'm Mother Fletcher, that's all. Now, are you going to get me an ambulance, or do I have to send that child out for another officer?" "We can't just call an ambulance any time someone says to call one," O'Brien said. "Boy, I am not someone," the old woman said. "I am Mother Fletcher, and you can call for an ambulance. You know how to use that radio you got." "What is your age?" O'Brien flipped out his radio and called the emergency network. "Full grown," came the flat reply. O'Brien stepped into the next room and told the operator what he had. The ambulance arrived some 15 minutes later. 2 slim attendants carried the old woman out. O'Brien wrote up the incident in his book and promptly put it out of his mind. A week later, he was called into one of the precinct offices, where a lieutenant and 2 patrolmen were waiting for him. "O'Brien," Lieutenant Stanton rolled a cigar from one side of his mouth to the other. "What's this I hear about you taking graft?" "I don't know what you're talking about," O'Brien answered. "Well, this package just came in from someone on your beat, and it's addressed to your shield number." The lieutenant was enjoying this. "Looks like graft to me, O'Brien. Open it up." O'Brien looked at the childish scrawl on the top of the box. "To Officer 4566. There was no return address. He flipped open the flimsy box and took out the contents. It was a knitted green cardigan. Instead of a brand name on the label, it simply repeated his badge number, 4566. O'Brien tried it on and was surprised to discover that it fit even his long arms. I wonder who it's from. Mother Fletcher, the lieutenant said. You do anything for her? Mother Fletcher. Oh yes, the old black lady. I called an ambulance for her. No big thing. She probably started making that sweater for you on the way to the hospital, Lieutenant Stanton said. We had another guy here about 2 years ago that straightened out a hassle she had with her landlord. She made him a sweater too. Then she decided that the landlord was right after all, and she made him a sweater. I guess it makes her feel good. You can put a couple of bucks in the precinct fund to make up for the sweater. And don't forget to go around and thank Mother Fletcher. It's good for community PR.